Hello. So today I want to talk about Pluto in the first house. I just want to give a quick disclaimer. This is not about Scorpio risings, Scorpio ascendants. A lot of the time people lump in Pluto in the first house with Scorpio ascendant, and they're just so different. It's like having a Cancer rising or moon in the first house. They're similar, but people with moon in the first house, like the phases of the moon literally affect their personalities, their emotions, the way they act. The phases of the moon has so much effect on them. So they're similar, but they're different. This is not about Scorpio risings. This is about Pluto in the first house. You could have a Libra ascendant and be a Pluto in the first house, and the effect will be tremendous. Like, it'll dominate your chart. So this is not about Scorpio risings. That's just a quick disclaimer I want to give. This is about Pluto in the first house. So yeah. So the first thing I want to say is Pluto in the first house has very polarizing energy. And a lot of people on here, they come on YouTube and they talk about Pluto in the first house or whatever, and like you have this intense sexual amazing energy and people are jealous of you, and that could be true, but a lot of the times it's not. You have such a polarizing energy that people can just look at you, people who don't even know you, and they see your personality traits, and they see the way you talk, the way you act, the way you move, and it just turns them off. Like, they just don't like you. And that's that polarizing energy that you possess. People will just look you up and down and hate you for no reason. It's just something about you. So you have very polarizing energy. You may have experienced people not liking you and you don't know why, but it's just your nature that they don't like. You could also be a scapegoat. People may just despise you because they see something in you that reminds them of something about themselves that they hate about themselves. And they may not even be conscious of it. There's just something about you, something they hate about you that reminds them of a personality trait that they have, or an attribute that they have that they really hate about themselves, and they see it in you, and they may not even be conscious of it, and they hate you for it. They just, we all know it's psychology 101 when a lot of us can not like the things that we see in others that remind us of parts of ourselves that we don't like, right? And this is a classic thing with Pluto in the first house. People will hate you because you remind them of a part of themselves that they really hate. There's something really mysterious about you. There's something really intriguing about you. People want to figure you out. You like to be private. You like to stay private. You don't want to generate interest or intrigue, but people can't help it but be interested by you and want to understand you and want to know what makes you tick. You're just a very intriguing, fascinating person to other people, and they want to figure you out. And this makes you uncomfortable because you don't like to be analyzed, and you don't like people like analyzing you. Pluto is extreme. Pluto is transformation. You may experience transformation on a physical level because it's the first house, and on an internal level in a very drastic way. You may have been like a very beautiful woman in your early days, like very beautiful, very popular, and then suddenly maybe you gain a lot of weight or something happens and you become a completely different person. And Pluto is extreme. It's like light to dark, like from one extreme to the next. So the transformation process is very extreme. So you become a whole new person, and yeah, you experience rapid transformation. Even in your personality, you could go from being like a very extroverted, very popular, very like easy to talk to person to becoming, after a series of events that change you forever, you become a very antisocial, very awkward, very to yourself person. So the transformation is intense. It's like night and day. And people from your past or people that knew you at a certain point in your life don't even recognize the person you've become. They may not even physically recognize you because the physical transformation is so extreme that you become unrecognizable. Like, it's like the ultimate transformation. The transformations you go through are very tough. They're very hard. Like, after a series of, usually it can be positive circumstances, but they're usually very negative, very unfortunate circumstances, you become a whole new person. Just like a diamond that is built underground through flames and like with a lot of pressure added to it, you go through a lot of pressure and you become someone completely new through that pressure that you go through. You will come out a new creation. Pluto is all about truth. Pluto demands honesty. Pluto demands truth. So anything that you're hiding that is not authentic to who you really are, anything that is holding you back from being your true self, it will fall to the wayside. Like, you will experience such transformation through series of events that bring you closer to who your authentic self really is. And this could be like all kinds of things that lead you there. But Pluto is all about truth, and it's constantly reinventing you and transforming you so you become the truest, most authentic version of yourself. And if it has to cause disaster or destruction to get you there, it will. So tighten your seatbelts if you have displacement. If you're not authentic, if you're not being an authentic person, if you're not expressing yourself in an authentic way, Pluto will bring about circumstances in your life that will force you to be your authentic self. This is known as the comeback placement, because you will go through a period where you fall from grace. You will experience so much destruction and such bad circumstances. And while other people would unalive themselves in these situations that Pluto in the first house goes through, Pluto in the first house is like the phoenix rising. It gets burned to the ashes and then it rises. So this is the comeback placement. A lot of celebrities who've had comebacks have this placement after going through like horrible downfalls, falls from grace. They come back and they rise like a phoenix from circumstances that most people could not rise from, most people could not come back from. The first house is public and everyone sees it. It's very public. So your transformations, your crises moments are very public. Your social circle, your friend group, your family, because Pluto is in the first house and Pluto is destruction and first house is public, people see your destruction. People see all your horrible, the horrible things that happen to you that make you self-destruct. But people will also see, if you allow them to, and don't do anything like unalive yourself or whatever, people will also see you soaring back from the depths of the ashes back to the top. So it's a public house. You're very private. You don't want people to know your business. You don't want people to see your business, but you can't escape it with here. It's mortifying to you. It feels horrible to you, but you can't escape being, the center of attention with this placement. Pluto in the first house, because it's the first house, and the first house is personality and the things we identify with, and Pluto is all about destroying and transforming. You may lose the things that you identify with the most, like your career. Maybe you have a talent that you're really good at. You may lose your ability to exceed in that talent. Your physical body, maybe you're known because you have a really hot body and then suddenly you lose your body. Your looks, maybe you're known because you have this amazing relationship and then a scandal happens and then you guys break up, and or your marriage dissolves and you can no longer use that to identify with. And a lot of the times for Pluto in the first house, it's not just one thing that you lose during like a transit or during a transformational phase of Pluto in the first house. It's everything. Like you lose everything. You lose your looks, you lose your career, you lose your reputation. Everything falls to the bottom and you lose it all, and you have to rebuild a personality from the ashes of the old. You become a whole new person. You have to develop new strengths, new talents. You identify with different things. You become a whole new person because Pluto is all about transformation. And like I said, it's extreme transformation. So you just become a whole new person and you lose the things you identify with and you start to identify with other things. And it's not as easy as I'm saying, like, oh, you lose what you identify with, now I'm just gonna identify with other things. It could be like years long process of rebuilding yourself, like 10, 15 years, maybe 5 years for some people, but a long time to rebuild yourself and become someone completely new. Your relationships may have themes of power and control. Either you dominate people and you control them, or you're dominated and controlled. There's always a theme of power and control in your close relationships and your friendships. Yeah. Because you've been through so many transformations and you've been so many different people throughout your life, you experience life from different angles. You've been the popular person, you've been the outcast, you've been a saint, you've been a sinner. You've experienced life from different positions, so it gives you a very clever perspective on the world and human nature and psychology and how people work. You've been so many different people, so you've got to experience life from different views, and that makes you very intelligent and very smart, and it gives you a lot of insight about the world and life and human beings. You are very selective on the people that you befriend or open up to. You're very intuitive and you run off how you feel, like the vibes that people give you. And it's so crazy because you can be one way with one person, like completely different, and like a completely different person with another person. And that is because some people, you have your walls up high, you just look at them, you see their vibe, you see their energy, and you know you're just not going to click with them, or you don't like them, or you feel that they're judgmental, they'll never understand you, so you close up from them. But certain people you open up to and you build relationships with, because it's all about your intuition and how certain people make you feel and the vibe that you give off. So yeah, some people may say, oh, I don't like that person, his walls are so up, he's so anxious, he's so I don't understand him. And then some people will say, oh my God, I love that person. He's easy to talk to. He's so insightful. He has so much knowledge to share. I really connected with him. And it all just depends on who you decide to give your energy to and who you close off to. You may have experienced a public traumatic event that you're known for, a traumatic situation that everyone in your circle, all your friend groups, the people that you know, your mutual friends, may have witnessed and you're known for. And it's usually something very shameful or embarrassing. So maybe if you are a man and you had a sexual experience where you couldn't perform, and the girl or whoever told everyone about it, and then you'll always be associated with that event, like, oh yeah, I heard this person, he's terrible in bed, he couldn't even perform, and that may not be true, but it was just an experience you had. But it's people associate that traumatic experience with you. Or maybe you got really drunk one day and got into a fight and got beat up, and then everyone says, oh, that's the guy that, remember at the bar he got beat up, and it's like ingrained in people's memory and minds of you. You could be or will be betrayed by the people that are closest to you. Like your best friend, your family, I don't know, like the people that are closest to you could betray you in a very horrible way. Like you may not even trust a lot of people because every friend that you had or every person that you know that you were close to betrays you in some way or some form. Yeah. Your reputation may be tainted. That's pretty self-explanatory. You may have experienced situations or things or did things that taint your reputation. You may have an edge to your reputation. Yeah, this is not a placement where you may have like the best reputation. Your sexuality is a main theme people view you by. Maybe if you're like a closet case, people are always speculating on your sexuality. Like, is she gay? Is she a lesbian? Is he gay? Um, Maybe you look very promiscuous, even though you might not be. So people just label you as a very promiscuous person that sleeps around, even though you may be uptight or you may not give yourself away easily. There's something about your sexuality and that people view you by, that people associate with you. There's something about you where people sexualize you a lot. People view you by your sexuality. And what you do in the dark will come to the light. Pluto exposes. So if you're involved in something scandalous, illegal activities, anything like that, even if it takes years and years, ultimately it will come to the light. Pluto in the first house is a public house. Pluto exposes. So you will be exposed. Anything that you do that you're not proud of, or even mistakes you made in the past, or whatever the circumstance, I guarantee it will come to the light. So some of the celebrities that have Pluto in the first house, the first one is such like a stereotypical Pluto in the first house in my opinion, and that's Britney Spears. We all the millennials that grew up with Britney Spears, we all saw her and witnessed her power. She had like the best body. She was so beautiful. She was an amazing dancer. She had like number one hits all throughout her career. Like one of the greatest selling female artists of the 2000s. And then We saw in 2007 how she gained a whole bunch of weight. She had mental health problems that started popping up. She shaved her head. The image of Britney Spears that we all knew and loved was completely tarnished and destroyed. And then we all saw how she rose like a phoenix from the ashes. In 2008, she lost a lot of weight. She got hair extensions. She became beautiful again and went to #1 again and rose like a phoenix. And then in recent history, we saw how she was controlled and dominated by this conservatorship she was in, major control in her life, a lot, like 13 years of abuse. And then she got out of that too. So that's like the main one. Another one is Justin Bieber. We've seen how his physical appearance has rapidly transformed throughout the years. We've heard about the scandal with Diddy, his like private life coming up to the surface and being like a topic of conversation. Things he's probably really ashamed about and would probably prefer to keep private. People are constantly discussing. We see how his managers and his the people around him and the people closest to him completely turned their backs on him and sold him out for money. Another one is Avril Lavigne, and that just goes to show you the power of transformation and how she was like a very like a pop rock girl and very like feisty and different, and then she went through a transformation like many Pluto in the first house people do, and she started having like pink highlights and wearing like skirts and being more girly, and it's gotten to the point where a lot of her fans and a lot of people think she's a clone. Like, and with Pluto in the first house celebrities, a lot of people think they're clones because the transformation is so intense. It's so like I explained earlier, it's one extreme to the next, and people can't fathom that someone can change so much like that. But a Pluto in the first house can. So Avril Lavigne's another one. George Bush, he went from being overnight like a respected, loved president to being like one of the most hated people in the world. Some people labeled him the Antichrist. And the whole 9/11 situation, I don't need to get into it. Like, just a huge, rapid shift in the way his reputation is and the way that he was viewed. And who knows the personal transformation he may have went through when all of this was going down, because things like that can really change a person. Judy Garland, we know her story, just everything she's been through, being the golden girl from the Wizard of Oz, and then suddenly going through all her problems and all the trials and tribulations. Everything was very public. Everyone saw it. Dave Chappelle, another celebrity with Pluto in the first house that people think is a clone because he's experienced so much transformation in his appearance. But that's just the transformation Pluto in the first house goes through. But yeah, some people think he's a clone. Sarah Palin, she was like the most infamous female celebrity or politician or whatever you want to call her in North America. People really sexualized her. Tina Fey, did her whole impersonation of her where she sexualized Sarah Palin, and that's the whole going back to the whole thing about Pluto in the first house people being sexualized. We have Hulk Hogan. His whole family was destroyed. He had a corn tape that was exposed. He had the lawsuit to win money over that tape being exposed. All his personal life out in the media. Very public transformation. Everything very public. Carrie Hilson, who was an R&B singer in the mid-2000s. She apparently, dissed Beyonce and dissed Sierra, or she dissed somebody. She dissed Beyonce, and then she got so much hate that she had to retreat for like over a decade, going through personal transformations. And she only recently just came back with a new album. I saw like last month, I think I saw it somewhere online, that she had a new album coming out. But before that, she was a recluse. She was in hiding because of all the backlash she got um, during her dissing Beyonce. And then the last one is Beyonce and Jay-Z, and we see how powerful they are and how powerful they've been. But now we're starting to get in the media like accusations about Jay-Z and what he does in his personal life, and then we see people are really turning on Beyonce. She had like this perfect image, queen bee, whatever, and now people are calling her overrated. There's a lot of backlash with Beyonce. There's a lot of scandal in her career with the way that her father, who managed Destiny's Child, treated those girls, and there's clips of Beyonce, you know, not treating those girls right. And yeah, so those are the Pluto in the first house celebrities that I wanted to discuss. And there's a bunch more, but those are the ones that I feel like really exude that Pluto in the first house energy. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.